It's an absolutely glorious morning, and we are gently reaching up the Leon Solent bank, heading towards the Hamble, and we're going to pull the boat out. One of the things we noticed absolutely on day one was that the log reading was different port and starboard side, and we've changed the log sensor and that hasn't changed anything, and the only conclusion that we can reach is that the water flow over where the transducer isn't working. So we're heading back to the Hamble. We're going to pull the boat out and we're going to put the log sensor in a different place, which is a pretty significant piece of it's a big change to what we'd hoped for. We'd hoped to only have one skin fitting there, but it looks like we're going to have two, because the implications of not having a good log reading are pretty huge. It has a knock-on impact in terms of how the apparent wind reads out, and all those sorts of things, and teaching somebody to sail by the wind when the instruments look different on different tacks, independent of everything else, would just be confusing in the round. So might as well get it fixed. So we're going to get it fixed now. If I can just explain the symptoms in a little bit more detail. When we were on the port tack, the log seemed to read a little bit high. We're doing 6 knots here in 8-10 knots of breeze. But we put the boat onto the other tack and there was no tide at this point. Picked it deliberately, and the log speed drops down to what looks like 2. Not great. The other thing that we're going to do when we get the boat out, just because we happen to be in the boatyard, it's something that we could do, but one of the things the surveyor mentioned was that we hadn't changed over the stanchion bases. Now, some of them are easy to change and some of them are more difficult, and they looked okay, but one of them is really not very well at all and has created a little bit of a leak, so we're going to fix that. Let me just show you this one now. So if you look down at this stanchion base here, it didn't used to move, but a few acts of tacking have loosened it very slightly, and particularly on that leading screw there, there's now a little bit of a leak into the wet locker. Now, obviously a leak into the wet locker, not a crisis, so let's get it fixed and it should be nice and easy, but we'll need to keep an eye on the rest of them. I've given them all a bit of a waggle and the rest of them seem fine, so fingers crossed for that. So arrived on the Hamble, glorious day, not a cloud in the sky, motored into the lift that Corrick had come out of just 8 weeks ago. I wasn't there for that, so this was the first time in the lift for me in the boat. Very helpful guys, a couple of little prodders to make sure you get in the right place, and we just lifted straight out. There's James in the corner making a tiny bit of video, which you'll see later, and they wheeled us to the back, stepped out, and this is James's shots of us coming up as well. He was obviously quite keen to see what we looked like as we came out of the water. Interesting enough that the anti-fouling had gone on some time ago and we weren't sure how good it would be, but it seemed to be just fine, not very much. So now looking, this is the old combined speed, depth and temperature, and this is the new one, so in the same sort of vicinity but very much in the position where the original was. Yeah. Well, I'm making my way back from the Hamble through a very lovely but somewhat deserted Solent. Only things are out are the ferries. We are punching a fair bit of tide and a fair bit of wind, but I'm really quite happy because the log itself that we went in to go and have fixed is reading consistently on both sides. I've calibrated it a little bit, but not perfectly, but on each tack the numbers are consistent, and an added bonus is that the numbers are much less volatile. They used to jump around inside a knot, up and down a knot at a time, which didn't feel right, and I think may have been that the flow over the old transducer wasn't right. So all appears to be fixed. Very happy with that. The guardrail stanchion got done in the margins, and very grateful to James and Ollie for that. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Thank you.